Terrell Jordan. I'm a junior political science major, religion minor at Morehouse College, and I serve as the now White House HBCU advisor. So today for me, this event is really speaking about why it's important to keep a clean record as a young person. And as the youngest person on the panel, I think that's very important because for us, it's easy to get in trouble. It's easy to do something that we shouldn't do. It's easy to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, the right place at the wrong time, and the right place with the wrong people. So for us, we really have to decide, what do I want to do with my life? Is my life important? And I preach that message to young people because you never know what's going to happen in your life at a young age. You know, I'm now 20 years old, about to turn 21, about 8 days, and I work at the White House. For 2 years now, I've worked at the White House. I've had several background checks. I've worked with several federal agencies, including the FBI and Homeland Security. And if I would have gotten in trouble, if I would have done something wrong, if I would have hung out with the wrong people, I couldn't do that. Even if I would have smoked weed, I couldn't be in this position. You know, I have to do a background check every few months. And for me, I can't get in trouble because I know that I want to do something with my life. I know that my life is important. I know that I want to be successful. So for young people, you just really have to decide, is this thing I'm about to do in this moment worth changing my entire life? Because you could do something in a split second that could change your entire life, and there's no way to go back. You could smoke weed, you could drink, get behind the wheel and kill someone. So it's very important to value your life and understand, and these people on this panel know way more than me, so I'm going to be taking notes myself, but I do know that when you're in a situation with the officer, they're always in charge. Make sure that you listen. Afterwards, I know young people, we like to argue and we like to talk and get our way. Make sure that you listen, and then afterwards, you talk about it. But in that moment, they're always right. So make sure you do the right thing. Thank you.
Travis and Trinity Townsend, as I said earlier, both attorneys. It's my understanding that you all have written a book aimed at addressing the interactions between the community and the police. Could you tell us about that book and why you wrote it?
Sure. I'll start out. I'm Travis of the Townsend brothers, and I'm a current practicing attorney. I actually practice business law, but I've been a member, an active giver to the community since I was 16. And you have to know where I came from to kind of understand how we came to writing this book to talk about criminal law education. I came from grew up in Mesquite Heights, Michigan, high poverty, high dropout rate. A lot of folks don't go to college. And so, in school, everybody's in the summer. You had this cycle like, you go home for summer, you come back, and such is not there. They'll start half this year because they at Boys Town, or they got in trouble with what's the name of it. That was just kind of how it was. You didn't know what they got into. That was life. And I was around a lot of those people. But fortunately for me, the Urban League had a student program where they came and they volunteered, they tutored me, and they taught me to be a civic activist, and they volunteered. I used to go to senior assisted living places, and I used to mentor middle schools. Fast forward, that kind of instilled a grand responsibility to my community to me because I was able to go to college, University of Michigan, and then go to law school, which is my dream, even though I was kind of in the midst of all this craziness. Got a great career, and I'm doing well for myself. I thought back somewhere in there, what happened to all those people that didn't have the opportunity? A lot of my friends, when I got out of college, they were getting out of jail for their 4 or 5 year stint. We went to school, they owned this one place. And it occurred to me that a lot of those folks were actually good kids. They were people that I played ball with, I competed for grades with, hung out with, played video games with, but they made mistakes that they were unaware of or crossing the line of the criminal law line. Now there's going to be some bad folks out there. I grew up with some folks that chose to be villains. They wanted to wear the black hat. But a lot of folks, they just didn't know how serious certain things would be, what the consequences would be. And I realized, man, I lost a lot of my friends and good people to the system. And so did America. Because nobody in school taught us criminal education. You learn math, you learn how to read, you learn science, and they said if you do these things, you'll know how to get a job, you'll be able to take care of your family, you'll be a productive citizen. Meanwhile, if you don't understand that if you drop somebody off to rob a bank and they come out, it's a 20-year crime, you're going to do 20 years even though you didn't pull a gun, you didn't say nothing, if you didn't know that, why don't we teach that? And so I got with my brother, and he can kind of tell you how we bridge the gap between trying to help communicate that information to folks like us. You know, they say, you talking to a demographic, they're not reading. They dropping out of school already. They're not going to read some books. So, I talked to my brother about how we bridge that gap, and he bridged it for me.
Yeah, so what happened was once I went to law school, both of us noticed that in law school you have to take criminal law. And what we noticed was, and we both had this epiphany, I was sitting in class one day and I was like, wait a minute, that's a crime? We used to do that all the time. Like seriously, for instance, if we used to ride bikes around town, kids don't do that anymore. We used to ride bikes all the time. People my age, they all nod because it's like you used to ride bikes like miles and miles. But if my bike caught a flat, if my neighbor had a shed and they had like a bike repair patch in there, if they gone, I just go in the shed and I take the bike repair patch. I don't talk to them or anything. They don't even, because I'm figuring, look, they won't know anyway, right? And then I just go patch my car, my bike up, and I might remember to take it back, or I might forget. And that's how it worked. Thing is, I never realized that I was trespassing. Sometimes they had a lock on there and we knew how to get the lock off, breaking it in or whatever. That's what we did. That's just how, that was normal for us. I'm just telling you, where we grew up, all that type of stuff was normal. And I'll tell you this, I don't mean to say things that are shocking or whatever, but one of my friends killed one of his friends. And that friend got life in prison. So, and that's what we knew. That's what we did. So what we realized was, how come nobody ever taught us these things? Like, why did it take me and him to go to law school, right, in our 20s, to learn this stuff? So we definitely know you don't know this stuff. And the thing is, what we thought about was, there's all these pitfalls that we don't know about. And we decided we needed to teach young folks about this stuff. So what we did is we came up with a book. And what we realized was we wanted to write a book that we would like reading. And I'm not even gonna lie to you. In law school you read this really dense, really dense readings, complex stuff. But what we thought was, let's write a book we'd like to write. So what we did is we wrote a book and we included illustrations that show a lot of the situations that you can find yourselves in. So we use relatable characters, we use animations and illustrations, right? And we come from an educational viewpoint of it, so to make people turn the page. So a lot of the crimes that the young folks you be faced with, and it's easy to commit a crime. Let me just tell you that. Everybody, that's one of the things they're all trying to show you. The other thing is, and I'm gonna pass this on, is I used to be a high school teacher. So what I learned as a high school teacher is that all the kids, they all thought they were smarter than all the adults. And all the parents out there know you're dealing with that right now. Your kids, they got everything figured out. But I used to always ask my students, if y'all got everything figured out, how come y'all don't run the world? You gotta go ask your parents for an allowance. So the thing is, as smart as you are, there are people out there, they spend all their time, like if you plan on committing a crime, they spend all their time catching people like you. That's their job, that's all they do. You thinking about playing Xbox, and this girl you're trying to talk to, this boy you like or whatever and all that stuff. And you think about your next meal, you're thinking about the Jordans you want to get and all that stuff. They're thinking about getting you. You can't devote the same amount of time to planning out crimes as they can to get you. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, they're gonna get you. They're gonna catch you, no matter how smart you are.
So one thing to wrap about this concept and our approach is that criminal law reform and improving police and community relationships and improving our situation with respect to the justice system is not just about knowing your rights and not being disrespected by police. It's about understanding the criminal law so that you can better behave, better understand how you should be interacting with police, but also assert your rights when you have negative interactions with law enforcement. It's a comprehensive thing. It's not a one-way thing. The police are not always right. They're not always wrong either. And neither are the citizens always right and always wrong. And so we want to improve where we are with the community and the police. It's got to be a comprehensive, smart, intelligent approach, not just us versus them.
Thank you, gentlemen. Real quick before you pass the mic, tell us the name of your book again.
When the cops come knocking.
It's called When the Cops Come Knocking.
And where can we get a copy of that?
You right now it's on Amazon.com, and you can go to our website. And we're also selling some if you want for purchase afterwards.
Tell us your website.
Yep, and the website is copscomeknocking.com, or you just put Cops Come Knocking in Google, and after you get past all the Maxwell references, you see ours.
And we'll be raffling off 10 copies of that book today, so fingers crossed. Sergeant Pittman, thank you for joining us. Obviously, I've gotten the order to where it's a transition, a logical transition. These two attorneys just spoke about how to interact with the police officer from a civilian standpoint. I want you to walk us through, just as an officer, how you train your officers, or the proper way that police are instructed to engage with the community, and the expectations that you have during that confrontation.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all, both parents and the young folks who are out this morning, for coming to participate. Let me first say on behalf of Chief Sandra Jones, she was unable to make it this morning. We appreciate your time, and your commitment to the success of you all as contributing members of society. All right, you heard both of the attorneys talk about a number of things, and I'm going to say this. Ultimately, there are 2 things that parents try to instill in young folks, and again, there's a number of things that, even though you instill those things in them, are constantly affecting them. I would hate to be a child growing up today, just because of all of the external factors that they have to deal with. Those 2 things are, number 1, respect of yourself, and number 2, respect of others. And we all try and instill that. It's really easy to know that from a young person what's right and what's wrong. As the attorneys pointed out, there's a huge gap in between our understanding of both of those concepts. Going forward, this is for the parents and the young folks. I want you all to understand that in our form of government, the only way that it works is when each and every one of you are engaged and involved in what is going on. So everybody brings value to the circle. All right, we preach in Union City and come from a place, and I'm sure everybody has heard community policing, right? It's a buzzword, but in Union City and most of the surrounding areas here in South Florida, is something that has been tested and found to work. But again, the most important part of that is you. So what I will say is the totality of circumstances, and everybody sitting up here will talk to you about that in some shape, form, or fashion today. And as you saw in the little video, it was a piece of everything that those individuals had done that, number 1, either related them to what had taken place or did not relate them to what had taken place. So again, responsibility for each and every one of you all starts with you. All right, it starts with you. It starts with the individual. All right. As far as, I think the second question was, how we teach or how we are instructing police officers to interact with individuals. First of all and foremost, for my young folks, it's just this simple. You have to respect yourself enough and understand that you dictate the outcome of your interaction with most law enforcement officers. All right, because police officers in this day and age are trained to respond to the level of resistance that they receive. Okay, so it can be good or it can be bad, but it really depends on you.
Sorry, can you break that? I'm sorry to interrupt because I think you just said something very important. Can you repeat what you just said and break that down even more as far as how you were trained to respond to the level of resistance that you receive? What is that way?
All right. And we, for the sake of time, I'm going to do this. It's going to be a real quick, condensed version. All right. But ultimately, please understand this. All right. Each and every one of you guys here were fortunate that you were born in the United States of America. If not, since that time, you live in the United States of America. So anything that we do, police officers, we have to function within a set of conditions, set of circumstances. There's a document, 200 plus years old, called the Constitution. All right, and it drives, frames, and dictates how we deal with you all, how we deal with each other. All right. First and foremost, everybody remembers our history. We went through some periods where everybody was not treated appropriately. All right. Evolution. All right. Brought about a change, and like I said, after the civil rights movement and the women's lib movement, we kind of got it straightened out based on current conditions. You might think maybe we didn't, but we did. All right, and each of those gains is a benefit for us all. Okay, but again, as I said earlier, the importance is each and every one of you. Everybody has to do their part. Okay, so from our standpoint, in Union City, as police officers, we understand that we have no authority that you all don't grant us. All right, in a free society, the most difficult thing to do is to police a free society. All right, because in a free society, we would like for you to voluntarily comply. All right, but it's up to you whether or not you do it. All right, now, of course, if you don't do it, then of course, then there are ramifications. But again, from that position and that document that talked about the Constitution, we operate in a certain guide, a certain set of circumstances. All right, if you take anything from what I said to you all today, all right, everybody here on this panel, I can tell you who's going to chime in on this next thing I say. All right, everybody in here repeat after me. Ignorance of the law. Is not a defense. Okay, I didn't know. No one told me. It does not cut it. It won't cut it. And unfortunately, there is an expectation, all right, especially in a free society like ours where everybody has equal opportunity and access under the law. They also have access to the law. All right, how many people in here have a public library card? All right, the whole room's hand should be raised. All right, because this is a free society. And mom and dad, it is a right and a privilege of citizenship. All right? And no matter what you do, all right, there's a portion of your tax bill that pays for public libraries. All right? Now, everybody here has access to the internet as well. Do not run your life by Google. You're headed for a brick wall, all right? And I'm telling you, it's not going to turn out well. All right, but what I will say in closing is, again, ignorance of the law is not a defense. The nexus to all of that is this. Each and every one of you have the ability and the opportunity, all right, via a public library, all right, to know the law. All right, so again, empower yourself, knowledge is power. And I'm going to, for the sake of time, go ahead and close and pass on.
Thank you, Sergeant. Appreciate that. As I said earlier, Ms. Fonnie Willis is Chief Deputy District Attorney here in Fulton County. Ms. Willis, if you could you talk to the audience about your perspective as a prosecutor, what your role is, and how you interact with the public?
So my role at the DA's office is I supervise about 20 lawyers, and those lawyers try what I call like all the bread and butter crimes. So what is that? Your drug cases, your cocaine, your trafficking, and your possession with intents, your armed robberies, your burglaries, your aggravated assaults, your ag batteries, everything. The only thing that my lawyers aren't responsible for are homicides and sex crimes. I personally worked as a homicide prosecutor for 8 years, and I was telling one of the people I've probably tried over 100 murders. The interesting thing about me is my career is 22 years long, and the first portion of my career was spent defending cases. So my first murder was actually defending someone for murder, but I've prosecuted over 100 murders. One thing I wanted to do interactively is everyone in this room over 13 years old, can you please raise your hand? 13 or over, will you raise your hand? If you are 13 or over, can you please raise your hand? We can put you in jail for life. And why is that possible? Because people that are 13 to 17 years old can be tried as an adult. And we do try 13 to 17-year-olds as an adult. I really appreciate Mr. Greathouse bringing me here, because what I am seeing as a prosecutor is that most armed robberies, which is a crime we can try you for an adult as, are committed between people between the ages of about 13 and 28. Actually, that's too old, 13 and 23. That is who commits most armed robberies. Once you commit an armed robbery, you're looking at 10 years. You see this nice, pretty lady sitting to my right who's a judge? She doesn't have any authority to reduce your sentence less than 10 years by statute. It's not optional. 10 is the minimum where we start. And you have to do 90% of it. And so I thought the video that they chose was just profound. The reason armed robberies are so serious is because they often end up in murders, which we can also, of course, try you as an adult for. But it's because I hear this all the time. The mamas are in my office crying, and what they want to say is, well, my baby didn't have the gun. And it's irrelevant. It's really irrelevant. Did your baby drive the car? Was your baby standing at the corner of the store? Did your baby talk about the plan via text messages beforehand? How about after? Did they go get the gun? Did they enjoy the proceeds? Did they participate in any way in that crime? And so my daughter just graduated last year from Westlake, and what I started noticing is I kept seeing kids from all of these schools where my daughter's friends went, because all of her friends, she went to Langston for a little while and ultimately graduated from Westlake, went to Banneker, they went to Westlake, they went to Langston Hughes, these local schools where all these children are in my house, and they're ending up in my files, not in juvenile court files, but in my files, because they went into the local subway or they sat in the car. And I had occasions when my daughter actually came home crying because one of her friends is in jail. I said, you can't talk to me about that. So the thing that I want you to gain the most is you have to make decisions for your life, and because you are 13 years old, they will kind of tell you, you could be the lookout, or you can participate in a small way and you're not facing the same kind of consequences. Should that armed robbery go wrong and become a murder, you're looking at life just like they're looking at life. There's no difference because they're 20 and you're 13. There's no difference because it's only an armed robbery. You're looking at 10 years. So now you're in jail from the time you're 15 to 25, going every day, and all she can do as a judge is sit there and cry with you because she doesn't have an option in sentencing you. And so I would just ask you, please, as they're saying, there's a public library. Educate yourself on what the law is, but mainly just don't participate in foolishness in any way. Don't get involved. It's just not working. And so I was proud of my brother at Morehouse. I'm a Howard graduate. there's one thing I wanted to say. He talked about all these lofty things he's doing, and that is really great. And I am very impressed that he's with the FBI. But there's something more basic than that. You can't get student loans if you're convicted of a felony. And I know for my kids, I need student loans. I have 2 daughters in college, and without student loans, they don't get to go because I just can't afford it as a single mother. And most of you all's parents cannot afford the full ride without some help. And so if you make these felony kind of decisions, you are probably not precluding yourself from being in the FBI and the White House. You're probably precluding yourself from getting educated at all. And so it's just not worth the consequence.
Finally, real quick before you pass it on, let me ask you this. You talked about mandatory minimum, meaning that a judge must sentence at a certain point. You told us for armed robbery. What's the mandatory minimum sentence in Georgia for murder?
Life. And that means you are not eligible for parole for 30 years.
So let me ask you this, because you told us that you tried over 100 homicide or murder cases. Of those convictions, have you ever convicted someone of murder, meaning they were found guilty by a jury, who did not pull the trigger?
Absolutely, all the time. I just was asking Judge Hill. She asked me, Judge Ellerby, do you still try cases? And I said, I just got finished with a 5 co-defendant murder right here in South Fulton. And only one of the 5 pulled the trigger, but every one of them is doing life plus 5.
Thank you. Our next guest, I'm going to couple them together, even though they both have different perspectives. Judge Kelly Ellerby and Judge Kelly Hill. Judge Ellerby is in the Fulton Superior Court, and Judge Hill is in the Cobb Magistrate Court. Judge Ellerby, could you tell us about your position, what your responsibilities are, and any takeaways that you feel that we should have?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kelly Lee Ellerby, and I am one of 20 different Fulton County Superior Court judges, and it is in that court, Fulton County Superior Court, where these cases that Ms. Willis talks about, these felony cases, are tried. So it's tried before a judge just like me in your county. And many of the takeaways that I can give you relate to those big cases. I see them at a sickening number. At any one time, I probably have at least 5 murder cases pending before me at any one time, and I'm one of 20 judges in our county. You don't hear about the sheer number of these bad cases. It's just incredible. Some real-life examples I can give you are just over the past 2 weeks. 12 days ago, here's a good example of a case that came before me. The defendant before me was a young man who did nothing more than go and try to sell some marijuana. He didn't have any firearm or other weapon on him. He was in his car. He had a female friend as a passenger in the car that confirmed all of this. He was going to sell a person some weed. When he got there, the person he was going to be selling that weed to tried to take the weed, not pay him, and the person he was trying to sell the weed to, guess what? Pulled a gun. So what our defendant did, who was there to sell the weed, was just try to save his own life. He tried to defend himself. And fortunately and unfortunately for him, he succeeded in that he grabbed the gun and it fired and it hit the guy who brought the gun to the deal. It killed the individual who brought the gun. It killed the individual who intended to commit the armed robbery. And he's dead now. Our poor little drug dealer, who was just going to go sell a little weed, is now before me on a felony murder case. Here's another thing about the law. If you're involved in the sale of marijuana or you're involved in any felony like that, and that is a felony, self-defense is no defense. There is no defense if you are engaged in breaking the law in a felony. He was standing before me, tears in his eyes, never had any violence in his history, and he was going to jail for a very long time. He made the wise decision, if you can believe this is a wise decision, to plea it out so that the state would agree to reduce it off the murder and he'd only go to jail for 20 years. If he had decided to take that to trial and he had been convicted and his own witness and he and everybody there, so that's exactly what happened, he would in all likelihood have been convicted, and then I would have been left with no option but a mandatory minimum of what? Life in jail. That is a real example that happened in my courtroom 12 days ago. So I'm so proud of Mr. Greathouse and everybody here putting on this. Please educate your family members. Please educate the people in your life. And young people, I'm just in the car. It was just a little marijuana. Remember the felony murder, life in jail scenario. You have no control over what your buddy does. You have no control over what that person who you're selling the marijuana to or who you're buying it from does or has on them. Another thing that I just want to put some emphasis on is one thing that I often see before me in these big cases deals with trying to keep evidence away from a jury and talking to the police in your rights. Thank you for the information, Mr. Greathouse, and on this video about Miranda rights. And mamas and daddies especially, when you're talking to your kids, and those of you who are here today, you have a right to an attorney before you talk to police. And not only, you need to be very clear to the police officer that you want your attorney present. You can't be maybe, you can't be wishy-washy. The law tells me, in ruling on those, if you're not absolutely clear and you just mention an attorney, but then you keep talking to the police, that's a voluntary statement that the state, these fine prosecutors, can use against you. And everything you said to the police officer and thinking you're going to get out of it is used against you now. So you tell the police officer, I want a lawyer, and then do what? Shut up. You don't say another word. You can do it respectfully. I want a police officer. I want my attorney present. So that is your right, but you got to put your right out there clearly. If somebody says they want to talk, but they'd like to have a police officer present, and you just keep talking, keep mumbling, you're going to get yourself in trouble. So that's some of the real things that I deal with every day. I also preside over our adult felony drug court. I rotated off of that this past year. I did that for 3 years. If you are in the scenario, or your family members are in the scenario of facing a felony charge in Fulton County, and it is in any way related to any drug issue, either it is you are picked up or being charged with a possession of cocaine, possession of marijuana, or it's you are before a judge on a burglary or theft that's in any way related to you supporting a drug habit, ask for drug court. That would potentially keep the felony off your record if you can do it before having to be sentenced. And in any event, it will prevent you from being in jail, and most importantly, help you reintegrate into society and be successful and get jobs and get off of drugs. Because another thing that I see all too often is the revolving door of our jail. People get picked up on minor felony offenses in comparison to drugs, the thefts, and they go to jail for a little while. They inevitably will get out before too long, then they go back to exactly what they're doing, and it's the root of it's a drug problem. And our drug courts really help you get off drugs. And so I encourage you to encourage those in your lives facing that to ask for drug court. And anything else that you wanted me specifically to speak about?
No, thank you. You've been great. Well, one last thing, because I used to be a prosecutor and I used to practice in front of Judge Ellerby, and I remember that anytime we were taking a plea, someone was pleading guilty, we would ask them a series of questions. And you and I had the conversation. One thing that always stood out, there's a question when we're trying to figure out if you're competent, basically if you understand what's going on. We ask, how far have you gone in school? Judge, what's the most common answer that you hear?
rarely do I see a high school graduate. It is more often than not 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. Stay in school. That increases your chances of avoiding felonies or anything. Get your high school diploma. If I were to keep statistics on it, I would say probably less than 10% of the people that come before me have a high school diploma. That is your best hope. Being around like-minded people, getting an education, doing something productive with your time. Stay in school. So I see that 19-year-old dropout is what I see more often than not.
Thank you, Judge. Judge Hill, and I probably should have switched you to, I wanted to talk about your position as a magistrate and a large part of your duty involving warrants. Tell us what a warrant is and a warrant application and why officers have to get warrants.
Okay, first of all, let me thank you all for being here. Thank you all for having me. It is my pleasure. I am always happy to speak to students your age and to impart any information that I can to you so that you can make informed decisions. Because one bad decision can change the entire course of your life, and I need for you all to understand that. The other thing I'm going to ask you is to just bear with me. I got to rebut this one. To answer your question about the warrants, what magistrate judges do is we decide whether or not a warrant will be issued to a police officer for an arrest of an individual or for the search of premises or a person. And that goes back to what the sergeant said as to the Constitution and your rights. We all have Fourth Amendment rights to be free from an unlawful search or seizure of our persons, of our homes, anything that we have an expectation of privacy in. The police officers have to go to a judge and seek a warrant, and they don't just get a warrant because they ask for it. They have to show a legal basis for the court or for the judge to issue that warrant. And I'd like to deal just with a real-life example since we're talking about warrants. I don't necessarily do a lot of warrants in my role, and I'll tell you all what I do in a few minutes. But a real-life example dealing with warrants in a magistrate court judge and police officers happens to be one that I have personal knowledge about because when I was a prosecutor like Attorney Greathouse and Ms. Willis, I prosecuted police officers. And I've had to prosecute those police officers because they sought a warrant from a judge and they did not necessarily give the judge truthful information. Let's just say they lied, okay? They lied, they got a warrant, they went into someone's home, and the person who was a 93-year-old woman ended up dead in her house. So the reason I tell you that is because you have to understand that on any given day, your decisions, your choices can impact you, and it doesn't matter who you are, including police officers, because those police officers are now serving time in prison. Why? Because they lied. Not only did they lie, they covered up their lie by planting evidence. They covered up their lie by getting a story and getting other people involved. So I just want you to understand that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter who your parents are, it doesn't matter who you know, you can in fact be held responsible for your decisions. And I need for you to understand how your decisions from choosing friends can impact you. Choose your friends wisely. Sometimes, you know what, you might really like this person because they're popular, you know, they're fun to be around, but if that person is getting in trouble, or if that person is encouraging you to do something that you know is not right, then don't do it. It's very, very simple. Do not do it. As a judge, one of the things that I do is I sit and I listen to probable cause hearings, which are hearings that come after someone has been arrested. When the state or the prosecutor presents his evidence, then I, as a judge, have to decide whether or not that evidence is sufficient to send it to Judge Ellaby's Superior Court or to send it to state court. And one of the things that I hear all the time when it involves students your age, as Ms. Willis said, is armed robbery. Now, most of the time when we think of armed robbery, what do you think about? You think about the person, you know, who's in the alleyway, standing there with the mask over his face, you know, he's got the dark hat on. And that is an armed robbery. But let me tell you what else is an armed robbery. You're sitting at your friend's house. You all decide, you know what, I'm hungry. Now let's go ahead and order some Domino's. Oh, but I don't have any money. Oh, that's all right. You know what, my brother, he's got this little toy gun over there. It's not real, man, so we don't really have to worry about it. So we get the toy gun. The delivery guy rings the bell. He's got the pizza. You take the gun, you point it at him, it's like, get lost, give me the pizza. And he leaves. You take the pizza and you all go laugh about it and eat your pizza. Guess what? The cops will come knocking. You know why they'll come knocking? Because you just committed an armed robbery. Was it a real gun? No. Does it matter? No. Did you take anybody's money? No. It was just pizza. It doesn't matter. It's an armed robbery.
Judge, I'm sorry to cut you off, just on that. So let me ask you this. So even though you just said it wasn't a real gun and it's armed robbery, but because it wasn't a real gun, you can still get a reduced sentence like 2 or 3 years, right?
Oh yeah, no, you're wrong. If it's not a real gun, you still will go down for an armed robbery. Minimum 10 years. Guess what? The person doesn't even have to see it. You just stick your fingers in your pocket and point it at them and make it appear to be a gun. If the person on the receiving end hands over whatever it is that you demanded because they thought it was a gun, that's all it takes under the eyes of the law. And you all need to understand this because we all have these perceptions in our head of what a crime is. There are so many other things that are crimes that people kind of innocently do and say, but I didn't mean any harm. That's the other thing that's no excuse. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. I really didn't mean to hurt anybody. Is not an excuse either. If you intended to do whatever it was, to put your hand in that pocket and take the pizza, then that's all the intent Ms. Willis needs to send you to prison for 10 years. That's it. So please understand how your decisions can make a huge impact. The other thing that I really want to talk about, because we've talked about murder, we've talked about armed robbery, I want to talk about the things that maybe we don't think are as serious. But let me tell you how serious they are. Ms. Willis said it can keep you from getting a student loan, which is true. It can keep you from getting a job. You won't be able to work and live and support yourself and your family because of something not as serious as an armed robbery, but let's just talk about drugs. I want to talk about drugs because drugs are rampant in our community. And drugs are something, the longer I live, and I've been practicing law now for almost 30 years, the longer I live, the more acceptable it is. And until it's legalized, you all need to understand it's a crime. Marijuana is not legal. Please understand that. Yes, less than an ounce is a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor is still a crime. Understand that. You can go to jail for 12 months. And if you have a joint and a bag over here, that's 2 counts. You can go to jail for 24 months. The other thing is, when you call the drug dealer to purchase a bag of weed, and the police have surveillance on the drug dealer because they want the big guy, guess what? They're going to get his phone records. Guess whose number is going to show up on the records? Guess whose text is going to show up as evidence? So guess what they're going to do? Because they want the big guy. They're coming for you first. They're coming for you. You're going to jail. And guess what? Now you're not going to be charged with the misdemeanor. You're going to be charged as a felon who was part of a racketeering gang that is involved in the sale of drugs. So yeah, you just purchased a joint, you just purchased a bag. It has now mushroomed. And you know how you get out? Only thing you can do is snitch. And we all know how people don't want to snitch. But they do. They do. You know why they do? Because they got to save their own butt. But that's after you've been arrested, charged with the felony, sat in jail maybe a year, maybe two, waiting to be charged. That's one of the things I do as a magistrate judge. I hear bonds. I decide whether or not an individual is going to be allowed out on bond. Well, sometimes I'll hear bond, and the judge is like, Judge, the lawyer's like, Judge, my client's been sitting in jail for 200 days, waiting to be charged. That's almost a year. You hadn't even been formally charged. You've been arrested, so you're in jail, but you haven't been formally charged.
Judge, let me ask you this. What is a bond?
So a bond is an amount of money that a judge will say, if you post this amount of money, you can be released from jail while you wait to be charged and actually have a final disposition of your case. So it's security that the courts get by making you put up money to ensure that you are going to show back up to court to answer to those charges. And it's security that the court gets to make sure that you don't commit another crime while you're out on bond. And it's security that the court will get to make sure that you don't endanger anybody else in the community or any witnesses or victims in the case while you are waiting to come to court and be charged with that one case that you've been arrested.
So, does everybody get a bond? Is it basically, if you can afford it, you're out of jail, right?
Right. No, everybody does not get a bond. And that's the decision that the judge makes. And it's also depends on the crime. 9 times out of 10, if you commit a murder, you're eligible for a bond, but you may not get a bond. But let's talk about the kid who comes before me and he's got 20 entering autos. Okay? Entering auto is you just come in, you're breaking in somebody's car. Either you bust the window to take something, or you know what, you don't even bust the window. You just flip door handles, trying to see which one's open so you can go in and take a cell phone. You come before me with 20 entering autos, because usually there are about 20 cars in the parking lot, so you touch all 20. You don't have to do it 20 different times to be charged with 20 different counts. And you come before me, I have to decide, you know what, if I give this person a bond, they're likely to go out and do it again. No, I'm going to deny your bond request. So you won't get bond. Not everybody is entitled to bond. Or if you get a bond, it might be so high that you and or your family can't make it. So you still end up sitting in jail, waiting to be charged, and then to have your case disposed of. And the other thing is, I had a young lady come before me. She was, I think she was 17 or 18, charged with armed robbery, because she tried to take a cell phone from somebody that she met on an app to get a phone, and she was going to take it just like the drug dealer, the guy with the drug dealer. She was just going to take the phone when she had time. So she came before me on a bond hearing, and the thing that I stressed to her was, I need you to understand something. If you don't get out on bond today, you sit in jail until you're charged. And once you're charged, you sit in jail until you have a trial or until you plead guilty. This is an armed robbery, which means you're facing 10 years. So guess what? The last time you were outside could in fact be the last time that you are ever outside for the next 10 years. I don't think you understand that. You go to sleep today and you're 16. When you walk out of jail, you're 26. Think of all the things that you have missed in life. You've missed your high school graduation. You've missed your prom. You've missed everything. And one silly decision can impact that. And I can't stress enough the importance of how that one bad decision can can change everything. And I want you to understand, if you don't get anything else from what I'm saying to you today, it's not always the person who, as one of the brothers down here said, who wants to wear the black hat and be the bad guy. It's the person who just thinks, well, if I do this, it's not that bad. But it really can end up being bad. And you need to understand that when you choose your friends and make your decisions. And can I just say one last thing? Sorry. My role as a prosecutor, I was in charge of public integrity, and I had to review all police shooting cases, okay? And I had cases where kids your age or maybe a little older were shot and killed because they didn't comply with the police, or because they had a cell phone in their hands that, as our sergeant said, to the police officer appeared to be a gun. It's dark outside, they're sitting in a car, they've got a cell phone in their hand, and they end up getting shot and killed. So please, 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 if you're pulled over and you have an interaction with the police officers, and you may think that they are dead wrong, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't, your chance to argue that is not that night when you get pulled over, okay? That's why you will have a day in court, and a judge or a jury can decide whether or not you were right or wrong. But please, that night, comply with the police officer's commands. One, because you can get charged if you don't. But two, it could end up costing you your life. Please live to tell your story. Because if you argue with the police that night and you don't comply with their instructions, you could end up dead and never have a chance to tell it. So I need for you all to understand that as well. Live to tell the story.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. In about 10 minutes, I want to ask you something just in case. This is Officer Jason Kay with the Marta Police Department, formerly the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. And he'll tell you that while he's with the Fulton County Sheriff, one of his responsibilities was to work the jail, Wright Street, you may have heard of it. Officer Cade has been featured on the show Beyond Scare Straight. I'm sure you've all seen it or at least heard of it. So I think it's important for him for about 10 minutes, because I want to save some time for some questions and answer, to tell us, just in case you decide you don't really want to take heed to what each of these panelists before him have told you. If you decide maybe jail's not that bad, tell us what jail's like.
Hey, how y'all doing? Right. I guess I'm the last stop from what everybody has talked about. Yes, I worked at the jail for approximately 5 years, along with Officer Stringer that's with me in the city. I tell you, jail's not the place to be. All these numbers that these lawyers and these judges told you, you don't understand those numbers until you do that time. They tell you 15 to 20 to 30 years. Some of you guys aren't even 13. So imagine starting your whole life over again, plus some. Or being 10 years in and still have forever to go. My experiences at the jail hasn't always been pleasant. I've seen people come in, change their lives, obtain their GED, went on the right path and got out and was able to gain employment. But that's not the case all the time. Education, everybody was talking about education earlier today. It's very important because these jails are getting overpopulated, these prisons are being overpopulated, and they have to plan for the future. So you know how they plan for the future? They plan for the future of how many bed spaces they need by you guys' test scores. And I'm going to say that again. You guys' test scores is how they make the beds for what they predict in the future. Let that sink in for a second. And then being in jail, I've never been an inmate, and I can't tell you how it is to be an inmate. But sex violence is rampant through the jail. And they're preying on young men. You go to court, you come back from court, you go back to your cell, and there's a honeycomb on your bed, you're probably going to be a rape victim that night. Say, no, I see a lot of it. I say, no, that's not me. That's not going to be me. There's somebody always bigger and better than you that hasn't been with a woman in 20 years. And they looking at you like new meat. Ladies too. It's terrible in the jail. I tell you, food is the worst part. Beans and rice. They give you the bare minimum. They only got to feed you twice a day. And they give you a certain amount of calories to keep you light. So you have to pretty much survive on commissary. Commissary is expensive in the jail. Not only your mother, your dad, your grandmother's paying for your lawyers and your bonds, and have to put money on your books for phone time. And commissary is an accessory. It's not the place to be. You'll have 36 different personalities in one pod. Everybody's upset. Everybody's lonely. Everybody's depressed. There's one TV and 2 showers. Everybody doesn't take a shower. There's staph infections. It's a cold place. Could you imagine doing that for 20 years of your life? I might come in there and do one security round every hour. So there's no real protection. All you got is yourself. I don't know. I just never wanted to be in it. I thought just going to school, doing the right thing, saying no to certain things, being respectful of police is always, with our job, it's, and I can tell you every officer will probably agree with this, but most of our job is discretion. You can charm your way out of a ticket, or depending on the circumstances. I'm gonna tell you right now, we don't get it right all the time because we don't get all the information. I had a call the other day. Let's say somebody just stole a cell phone and it was a teenager with a blue hoodie on with a fro. How many people that fit that description in this audience, right? And then if I stop you and you didn't do anything, but I still have to do my job. And your interaction with me, it could be, man, I ain't do nothing. And that could very well be true, and we'll figure that out as soon as we do the show. If somebody comes and says, hey, that was him, that wasn't him, we'll let you go. It may be a little inconvenience, it may take 15, 20 minutes out of your time, but to resist the arrest, to resist the officer, can land you in jail. So sometimes it's just best to just charm your way, be polite, be respectful. Whether it's your teachers, your counselors, your parents. Just like everybody said with bond, who here wants their mom to lose their house? Bonds can be very expensive. I've seen people put their houses up. I've seen grandparents put their houses up and still didn't do the right thing and lost their house. And the escalation of what Sarge said, it's not a fair fight when it comes to law. It really isn't. If I try to detain you and you put your hands up, pull my taser out. Decide to pick up a bat, pull my gun out. Same thing in prison. Same thing in jail. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. So, you have something to say?
Real quick, not to take up any more time, but mom, dad, and young folks, how many people here have a driver's license? Everybody has a driver's license, right? Okay. Just how easy it is to get caught up. All right, just how easy it is to get caught up. Did anybody read the statement on the bottom of the license when they signed for it? And I want to inform everyone that driving is a privilege of citizenship, not a right. Okay? By signing that driver's license, you agree to do a number of things. And everyone here is going to agree with me. All right? There is a set of rules that goes with the driver's license. All right? And this is the easiest way, like I said, you a lot of times have contact with us. All right? Don't bring us into your word. Do the right thing. Because you said you would. You attested to it when you signed your license. You said that I would obey, number one, laws of the road. I would be respectful and courteous to other drivers. I would use due regard. Your Honor, am I telling the truth? And if I was stopped by a police officer and he or she asked me for my driver's license, I would do the right thing. I would comply with his lawful lawyer's, his or her request, and I would not give them a problem. You attested to it. I would do it. So when you stop, again, as I said, the way that entire thing goes is solely up to you. Now, as we talked about and the judge pointed out, everybody doesn't always do the right thing. There are some police officers who just ain't there. All right, but even in that case, the power still rests with you. All right, because if you comply, the likelihood of conflict is very good. And as the judge said, that's not the place to try whether it's right or wrong, whether you actually committed the offense or not. That's not the place to do it. That's what the courtroom is for. It's our job just to bring you before we present the facts, and the judge is actually going to make a decision as to whether or not you're right or wrong. All right, parents, I know you guys have probably never heard this before. All right, young people, you probably never heard this before. In the way that our form of government works, police officers' job is not to punish anybody. Remember what I said about being free? It's not our job to punish anyone. You know what our real job is? Education, while all other means have failed. To give you a nudge to try to get you back to where you need to be. And the way the process works is we document it and we bring it before a judge. All right, it's very simple. Very simple. And it's a choice. You can choose to win or you can choose to lose. All right? Real quick, the acronym that I never got to you guys, young folks, I want you to hang on to this. Mom, Dad, I want you to hang on to this. FAT and PAT. All right? Pass the attitude test. Don't flunk the attitude test. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Let me tell you how far that goes with me. I'm not right if you say yes, sir, or no, ma'am. 9 times out of 10, I'm not right. All right, because again, understand this. Remember what I talked about in us being free and everybody putting their part in as citizens in a republic, everybody has to do their part. Look at me. Everything I have on, everything I had on, your mom and your dad paid for, including underwear socks. I'm public. Everything we do is publicly supported. So think about this: the car you ride to jail in, your parents paid for it, and I'm just an extension of them when they're not around.
the law deems it necessary that when you guys are out of bounds, that someone be responsible for you. That's my charge. That's the gentleman's analyst in charge. That's his office charge. For everybody, when you're right, wrong, and indifferent, it's our responsibility to make sure that everybody stays in line, falls in line. Now, the law also says that when you're out of line, somebody has to bring you back in line. And the law gives us the authority, you grant it as a citizen. All right, for me to use, everybody hear this, the force that is reasonable and necessary to bring you under control, up into including the use of deadly force. Okay? None of us here, I have kids. All right? I got a mama, I got a big mom, I got an auntie in them. None of us wake up every day and say, you know, hey, we're going to throw somebody in jail and ruin somebody's life. And in closing, the most important thing is, as I said when I began, it's a choice. It's a choice. Don't get caught up. Don't give away the greatest gift you got beside life. Those inalienable rights that God has granted to you. That people have died for, that people have cried for. All right? Extend compassion. All right? Because when you get before the judge, everybody's looking for it. But if you didn't give it, don't expect it. All right? Everybody cries. They cry in the back of the car. I used to work DUI for about 12 years. And most of the time, like I said, my peak hours of work from 6 at night to 6 in the morning. And I can't tell you how many times I would stop a 40-year-old man, 50-year-old man. They get in the back of the car and say, can I call my mama, man? Your mama didn't drive the car drunk. Your mama didn't run from the police. Why are you calling your mom at 2 a.m.? All right.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I wanted to make sure we've got about 10 minutes left. I wanted to leave some time for at least 2 questions for our panel. Any parents, students, any questions you have, feel free to ask. Anybody have a question? Yes, ma'am. I'll come to you. Come on out first. Tell us your name.
And I'm just seeing a lot of robberies where the girlfriends are helping the boyfriends. I want to know, have you seen a lot of this going on? And can you elaborate a little bit about this so that I have a girls' organization, all girls, middle school and high school, and I want them to understand that helping your boyfriend do something is not a good thing to do.
Who wants to take this one? I could go on with it, but I'll let Judge Hill start first.
Okay, let me tell you about a case where there was a young lady who was with her boyfriend. And the boyfriend apparently knew and understood that there was an ad that she had in Backpage, which is a sex site, where people call to set up sexual encounters. So he drove her to the hotel to meet with this person that she was going to have an encounter with. Although it was never her intention to have an encounter. She was just going to go help her boyfriend because the boyfriend was going to rob the guy. So when the boyfriend showed up in the room where she was with the guy who thought he was just there to have sex with her, when the boyfriend got arrested on the robbery, so did she. So that's just one example of how helping your boyfriend or helping this guy who says he's going to buy you something can land you in jail. That's just one example.
I'll add to that as well. I certainly see women getting involved in the same type of scenario. I've seen the example of all the female did was communicate by phone with someone to get that individual to a particular place so that her boyfriend could rob. Police have access to ways, subpoenas, to get those cell phone records, to see that she was communicating, and the police will charge, and the DA is the one who charges. The DA will charge everybody that's associated with that crime. So that, no matter if you're female, no matter if you're the one who was even there at the scene or not, but if you're participating in the setting up of it, you can be charged with conspiracy for the armed robbery, you can be charged with the armed robbery itself, and it is certainly within the bounds of the law to charge everyone who's associated with it. As we all know, people don't want to talk. A lot of people know information about other people and don't want to talk. The only way sometimes that the police and the prosecutors can find out who is the most responsible person is to charge everybody. So you will get charged so that those people will then start looking out for themselves and actually telling what happened. So you can and will get charged, and you can and will face that minimum 10-year sentence for armed robbery.
The only thing I want to add is oftentimes with the girls, they're the only one that ends up charged. They talk about where the boyfriend gets caught too. They're the easiest person. It's their face on the ad. It's their phone that communicated with the victim. And so if they don't tell, then they are the only ones that get charged, and they get all of the consequences. I had a case that ended up in a murder, where the girl actually sent guys to a house. She was mad, so she wanted them to take some stuff from the home. Well, don't you know that got violent, and the victim ended up dead. We found one of the people that participated at the murder, but two of them honestly are still on the street, but she is not, because she participated in sending them over or setting them up, and this is getting to be a phenomenon that people are, I'm scary now. I wouldn't sell a phone or do anything else online meeting somebody I didn't know unless we were going to do it inside Union Station Police. I wouldn't do it because phones and purses and, it's not just drugs that people go to have very lawful transactions that end up with people dead. And they often use a woman, as you're talking about, and they also use young boys, because young boys can be what we call that is catfish. A pretty young girl face is the catfish to get the man there to have the sex or the massage or whatever the transaction is. They also use handsome young boys, and we're finding that we're prosecuting them a lot too, because they were the catfish and they had no intentions of having a homosexual contact, but they were cute and they posted them. And so it's a major problem. Usually the person's picture is the one most likely to go to jail.
One thing I want to add too, I want you to know, look, those situations are pretty obvious. This is Bonnie and Clyde. I set up an ad and I showed up, I sent some guys. But the situations that happen a lot are these incidental, I'm just acquiescing. He comes over my house and that's where the drug deal goes down. I don't really know nothing. Well, I take a few phone calls. I know it's the same number every time, and then I tell you, this is what's going on. And girlfriends, they look out for their boyfriends. I mean, that's part of the job, right? This Cookie and Lucius. You know what I'm saying? So like, you're not gonna ask a whole lot of questions, and maybe you're not a gangster or you're not a hater either. He getting his, and he buy you a purse or two every now and then with the money, or he buy you a phone to pay your phone bill. So you go along with these little things. And so, yeah, if you set up a robbery, you're going to be in it. But you don't really appreciate I just took a message here, or I held a bag here, or I just swung him by the house every now and then, and that's my man, he riding in my car, why not? And what was mentioned earlier, the woman will get it. I actually, a former law school classmate of mine, God bless, she was pardoned by Barack, and he was able to go to school because she was in one of these situations where her boyfriend was a drug dealer. Took like 2 messages. Whole thing got unraveled. She got bagged. He didn't at all. She did like 5 years. 5 years, nobody else. And you know why? Because she couldn't roll on nobody because she actually wasn't a criminal. She wasn't an intentional criminal. She just took a couple notes. She didn't know who had drugs, who was selling what money was. She couldn't tell on nobody, so she went to jail. So what I want you guys to think about is it's not just, I'm trying to get into this crime. It's, man, if my boyfriend is a drug dealer and I took a message, I'm part of this. Start thinking about those things on that level.
Listen, thank you very much. We have time for one last question. Yes, sir. Please tell us your name.
Hello, family. My name is Ralph Lee. This is my son, Ralph Lee, and we're with the Tony Young Karate Group. But I have a question, and hopefully this, I guess this is a projection. Systemically, we have normalized that 3 friends get together. There's a possibility. If something is going wrong, and the perception is, if you look like you're doing wrong, you're going to do something wrong. When are we going to normalize from that 200-year document that you speak of, that our kids are innocent until proven guilty?
So, my brother and I, we talk about this type of thing all the time. That this what you just mentioned is very difficult because obviously, I think one of the panelists mentioned this before. Like, if there's a description of a person, if it's a reasonable description, the police are going to do their job. They have to, and they have to investigate them. At the same time, if it's not reasonable, and I think this is where you have an intersection there, then it's not fair that they say if your complexion is like mine, then automatically anybody with my complexion, we're going to go after that person. But one of the things we talk about is we don't teach the community how we can combat those in some proactive ways. For instance, one of the things we tell a lot of folks is when you look up and you see that there's a mayoral election and the mayor deals with getting the police chief and the police chief is over the officers, but you don't vote for the mayor and you don't go in and say, look, we don't want a police chief that's going to allow our kids to be picked on for no reason. When you miss those opportunities, it's the community. Like, it's not just like part of the system is this thing out there. That's the system, but we are the system too, and we ignore those opportunities to make a difference, and then we complain later on about it. And the same thing goes for juries. We do everything we can to stay off a jury. You might be the only person keeping that innocent young black male or female from going to prison when you know they're innocent. But we don't do those things. So we are part of the system. Now there is that's out there too, and I always say, join activist groups, join, the NAACP and those things. But there are proactive things that we need to do. And let's just be honest, the next mayoral election, I can guarantee you, it's going to be less than 1/3 of the people that's going to vote. And that's in any part of South Fulton County. But you can't complain if you didn't get up there and do something about it too. So I don't mean to sound harsh, but I will tell you this strikes kind of close to me. One, because my brother ran for mayor too, and I know what type of mayor he from South Fulton, and I know what type of person he is. But those are the things that make a difference too. So and I'm sure other panelists have something to add to that. But from my viewpoint, let's keep that in mind.
Mr. Attorney, I concur 100%. Politics is local. All right, politics is local first. There is implicit bias and implicit bias. All right, implicit is what hurts us the most. All right, we all, as a result of our experience, think a certain way, feel a certain way, and are a certain way because of our experience. All right, historically, all right, I spoke very earlier about our relationship with law enforcement. Historically, it's not been a good one. All right. However, I need you all to address it, parents and young folks going forward, not from a position of weakness, but a position of strength. All right, because everything that happens to you, not indirectly, but directly, you have responsibility for. I talked about the totality of circumstances. It takes everything, all of you, to make it right. More so than not, as the attorney pointed out, we're not active. And the only time that we do complain is when we're personally affected. If that were the case, most of us would not be where we are today. All right, but again,
From our standpoint, parents, I need you all to have real conversations with your children. More often. Daily, in fact. When I was a young guy, I was raised by a career soldier and an English teacher, so you best believe there was discipline. But each day when I came in from school, I was greeted after my parents came in and, you know, both worked and all that good stuff like that. But I was engaged. How was your day? I couldn't just say good. I couldn't just say, you know, it was all right. I was engaged. And my father, my grandfather, and the village would at some point ask me, what did you learn today? So those are some of the keys to it. There is no exact answer. But again, we have to educate ourselves. Knowledge is power. We have to deal with the realities that exist in our world today. All right? Brown and black people, there's a different set of circumstances that exist for us. That's a given. Are there any 15-year-old males that are in the audience? 15 years old, stand up. All right, everybody give them a hand. Thank you so very much for standing up, sir. I asked you all to applaud him because I wanted to make a point. We need to celebrate more in our community. All right, society has written off males that are black and brown under the age of 15. That's as far as they're expected to go. All right, so when you sit up here today and you look at the panel, while Martin's dream has been realized, and if you look at this panel, it's a salt and pepper panel. His dream has been realized, but there's more to do. There's so much more to do. And it starts with you, the individual. All right, because again, the way that our society is set up, everything falls back on the family. All right, if the family's not right, then little can't get right. Ain't gonna be right. And just because the family is right, ain't right, doesn't mean that the extended family can't help the family. All right, because if not, guess what? The extended family is gonna pay for what is not right. All right, so again, in those instances that you have an opportunity to do something, do it. Vote. Be involved civically. Pick up some paper in your neighborhood. We hear all the time, we get this, Mayor, in Sandy Springs. You know why Sandy Springs look like Sandy Springs look? Because if there is a piece of paper on the ground, first of all, the homeowner, there are 10 trash receptacles along that path for them to put the trash in, and then nobody's gonna walk by that piece of trash. They're gonna pick it up, they're gonna put it in the garbage. All right? As the old folks say, sweep around your own front door. Or you sweep around.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's give a hand to all of our panelists. Can we get a young person to give us a question? Anybody have a question? There's a prize. One question.
Keep that wide into the answer.
The demographic that we're attempting to reach, 13 to 24. 13 to 24. Somebody in there. All right, because those are the people that all of us here are dealing with most daily. And again, we want you all to get it right. And we need your input to do that.
Here we go.
I'm 16.
Hold on. Stand up. Hold on.
What's your name? Marquis. Tell us your full name.
Marquis Gilmel Cass Jr. I'm 16, and I typically don't have conversations like this with anybody. And I've gone my whole life not knowing what exactly is parole, really.
I'll chip in. Parole, unfortunately, is what you have to worry about when you haven't taken anyone's advice on this panel.
Right.
That's what parole is. Ms. Willis, I think our judge, you want to.
Parole is usually that time period after you've been in jail for a while. You're not just back being a normal citizen again. There is after prison. There is a time where you're out, but you're not out still. You still have to report to a parole officer. Someone is still testing you for drugs. Somebody is still keeping you on a curfew. Someone is still there with you for several years, even after you finish that prison sentence. So it's a great question.
Let me give you a numbers example. For instance, somebody comes before me and gets 5 years in jail. You get paroled at year 3. For the next 2 years, you're under parole sentence, and that you're still under the watchful eye of the Department of Community Services, so that you are still susceptible to going back to jail under that original sentence. You get in trouble again.
She was being very nice with that 3 to 5. We've been talking a lot about armed robbery and 90% crimes, and so you did 9 years, and we're still going to be on you for this next one.
We explain parole in the book, and one of the ways we say it is this: you are still serving your time. You're just not serving it behind bars. See, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to explain it in ways that you guys can understand it. And so the thing is, you are still, like the judge said, under the watchful eye. The other thing you need to know is you do not have the same rights as a free person. See, you think you're free, but you're not really. Meaning that if the police, actually they pull you over for a good reason, a bad reason, or no reason. If they say get out the car and want to search you, unlike a regular person who's like, do you have probable cause? You can't refuse, they can still search you. If you're at a house, you're at your house, they can tell you, move out the way and walk in. So this is one of the things we want people to know about parole, because I think people who don't really know, when they talk to each other about it, it's like, yeah, I'm free. And no, you're not. And if you do any little thing that violates that parole, that's all it takes. Like when you go, if it's more likely than not that you did it, basically, if it's like, hey, it looks like you did that, that's it. You go back to being incarcerated, meaning behind bars. Does that explain it? All right.
Thank you. Excellent question. Thank you very much. Very much. One last thing that I wanted to add before we wrap up, before they kick us out. If you will notice, there is voter registration outside. One thing we didn't talk about is how a felony impacts your ability to vote. Maybe one of the Townsend brothers could real quick tell us about the impact of voting, if you're ever able to vote again as a felon.
Yeah, so, and this actually kind of ties into the whole jury thing too, in that there's a certain amount, basically you can get you after a certain amount of time you can get your rights reinstated, but you are barred from doing those. If you have a felony, meaning one of those serious crimes, then you cannot vote unless you get those rights reinstated. You can't be on a jury unless you get those rights reinstated. Why is that important? Well, let's think about it. Let's say you were a person who you felt like the law was unfair, and you want the law to change. You have a candidate who's like, I agree with you, and if I'm your representative, we're going to change that law and make sure that a person like you who ends up in a situation like that never doesn't go, get that type of punishment. But you can't vote for that person. So even though you think, that's a great idea, you can't do anything about it. And so you want to make sure that you, and by the way, you want to keep track of, like, say, if you have had a felony, how much time has passed, and try to work to get those rights reinstated so that you can vote.
Some states, just your right to vote will reactivate when it's over. And no probation, parole, all those things matter, right? So how we said, if you're on probation, you're on parole, you're still actually serving. If it's felony lit on your what we call your personal life report card, whether you're injured, if you're out, but you're still serving, you can't vote. Now, right now, I think in Florida, they just had a court case that spoke to this. There are some states that say, yeah, you're out, you're free, you did your time, but you have to apply for reinstatement, and then you have to be judged by whoever's in office. So say it's a strict police, hardcore, we don't, truthfully, people want to disenfranchise certain folks just generally, right? That's a lot of what's going on is about that anyway. So we get you in the system, we kill your ability to vote, we can control the government, we can do things that work for us. That's just conversation for another day. But it does go to this. Right now, there are people who've served their time, and then they have to go apply to people that don't look like them, don't believe in them, don't want the best for them, to have the right to maybe vote them out of office. So they're not getting their right to vote, right? So that's why you don't even want to get in the system. Because more likely, you might not ever, in some place, you might not ever get your chance to vote again.
And remember this, here's the key and the most important thing to all of that. Remember I told you, everyone, as a benefit of a citizen, being a citizen of the United States, you have rights. There's some rights that God gave you. Don't give them away. To have to reapply the rights that God gave you. Does that make a whole lot of sense? These are yours. Cradle to the grave. Free. And in that restoration, that restorative process, a number of times there are fees. You're going to have one of these gentlemen help you through that process. I mean, there are a number of groups that will help, but it can be very, very expensive. And it does not have to be.
All right, so I want to add one last thing. So every young person in here that wants to go to college, let me get you to stand. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And I wanted you to stand because I want you to think about this moment. You can sit down. I want you to think about this moment because every decision that you make changes your life. Every decision that you make changes your life. So when you are in a wrong place, you think about doing something, doing the wrong thing, just think about what you want to do with your life. Do I want to lose my life? Do I want to give it up? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to make money? Do I want to get a good job? Do I want to have a career? And a lot of times when I speak at schools, I ask the students, do you like the environment that you live in now? Do you like the place that you live? Do you like the people that you hang around? You know, I don't know anyone that wakes up and says they want to be a drug dealer. I don't know anybody that says they want to be a crackhead, they want to be on the streets, they want to be homeless. But as we go through life, we make decisions, and it's up to you to make that decision. Do I want to be great? Do I want to be average? Do I want to be nothing? And that decision starts at your age. At your age, you decide what you want to do with your life. You decide if you want to go to college, if you want to get a job, if you want to do anything. So don't let a bad decision, don't let a bad person influence you. Don't let your friends influence you. Because at the end of the day, your friends are not doing your jail time. Your friends can't go to college for you. And Morehouse is $50,000. I don't know any friend that's going to pay that. So your friends is not living your life. So don't let them influence your life. Don't let them make a decision for you that's going to change your life. So just remember that every time that you think you're going to do something wrong, remember what you want to be, where you see yourself in 20 years. And if you see yourself going to college, don't make that wrong decision. If you see yourself making a lot of money, don't make that wrong decision. If you see yourself being in a greater environment than what you're in now, don't make that wrong decision. Because that one decision could be your last decision. Thank you.
Raise your hand if you think this was a waste of time. Good. Everybody's raising their hand. Raise your hand if you know someone who would have benefited from being here that's not here. So take a look around. You see your hands that are raised. These seats should be filled. This is not the first time we've we put this on, but raise your hand if this is your first time hearing this from us, from Zena's house. So let's all resolve that next year we're going to tell a friend, right? And we're going to be right back here, right? There are many events like this that we put on at Zena's house. Not just this event, but we have college tours, workshops on what to do and what not to do on social media. We have workshops for kids who want to be an entrepreneur, who want to start your own business. There are things that we are attempting to do to build up our community, but we can't do it without you. This panel here, we didn't pay them. They're not paid. They're giving up their Saturday mornings because they care about this community. So of course, we want to thank them for their valuable time and being such an awesome resource. And don't let this be the last time that you see any of these people on the panel. Feel free, after this, go up to them. Talk to them, get their business cards, form a relationship. I'm sure somebody on this panel is willing to mentor you. Do you want to be lawyers? You want to be a judge? You want to be anything you want to be? I'm sure someone on this panel can help you. With that said, this is a free event. It didn't cost you anything to be here. We don't charge you for this event, but it costs money to put on a production like this. So I hate to ask, but my granddaddy was a Baptist pastor, so he would always talk about collection, right? We're not going to pass around a collection plate, but we can't do this without your help. There is a box at the table in the front. Please, anything you can do to help, because we want to make sure that we are growing and we're doubling. We're multiplying. The seats are filled next time we do this. Lastly, let's give a hand for Bernice Bronson. Bernice is the executive director. This is her vision. She came to me and the board, and we sat down and we plot out our year. We said, what's important? And we skipped this last year. She said, there's no way we're doing this again. We're not doing this again. So here we are, and we hope to see you guys next year. Before we leave, we want to do a quick raffle and turn the mic over to you.
Yes. Thank you all for coming. I hope you learned a lot of information. I know I did. You all have a green worksheet that discussed a lot of the things that they talked about today. So make sure you fill it out, keep it, understand it, and share it with your friends and family. Also, we have an evaluation sheet. It's very important that we know how we did so we can do it even better, change, tweak, whatever we need to do. It's really good to get a completed evaluation so, again, we can know how we did. So please fill that out and turn it in on your way out, and you'll get a small brochure for everyone to keep and read and have with you. We're going to do a raffle. We're going to raffle off 10 of the When the Cops Come Knocking book, and we do ask one per family, okay? And you can also get information on how to purchase the book. So I want to thank our panel so much for coming out. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you so much. God bless you all for coming. These are some high-powered people. They're educated. They have a heart to share. And I'm so grateful and thankful for them. And also know that our judges and DA, they're going to be on your ballot to vote. So this is something that you would, consider. They came out. They're interested in the community. They're supporting the community. I may just vote for them. So make sure it's Judge Ellerby, raise your hand, and Attorney Bonnie Willis. Okay? Look for them, Fulton County. And then we have Judge Hill in Cobb County. Okay, so be mindful of that. If you just turned 18, this is your lucky day. Go register. Go register to vote. If you haven't registered, register. 2018, we're voting for a new governor. Anybody know who our current governor is? Yes, so it's time. His time is up. time for someone else. We have Stacey Abrams coming out, and I'm not sure who else the candidates are. But start listening, pay attention. It's not just the president we're voting for. Just as the officer said, we're voting for mayors, we're voting for governors. And this is the time to pay attention. Look, the mayor of Atlanta, she won by 759 votes. That's 759 people who voted, and she won. So it's not a whole lot. Everybody's vote makes a difference. You understand that? Yes. Okay, so now we are ready to do the raffle. We have 10 books. Who has the books? Everybody have a raffle ticket? All right, here we go. Miss Regina's picking it out. All right, I'm going to read the last three numbers. 889. 889. No? Must be present to win. We're going to move fast because we're out of time. 924. 924. All right. 924. Thank you. Next. 964. 964. All right. 893. 893. All right. Oh, okay. Marquis, who answered the question, who asked the question, he gets a book. Let's give him a book. All right, next, 922. 922. Okay. Same family, okay. Thank you. 890. All right. Okay, how many books do we have left? How many? 5? Okay. 976. All right. Got a student. 976. 904. 904. Who had it? Okay, wonderful. 904. Raise your hand so they can get it to you. 911. All right, let's do it. Woo! 974. 974. All right. There we go. Right here. Same family. Oh, okay. Okay. 919. All right. All right. Right up front. How many? Last one more? Last one. 969. 969. Okay. Then we have 2 coupons for free haircuts at JB & Company's Barber Studio. This is a free haircut. 933. Mayor, I think you're good. No, 933. Nope. 925. All right. One more, last one. 885. 88. Oh! Does he get it? No. Sorry. One per family. Oh, it's 2 different things? It is your lucky day. You got it. All right. All right. Oh, okay.
Just another announcement about it. So, I'm glad everybody's able to receive a copy. We're able to get some of the copies out. We also have a surprise. We are re-releasing a new edition that's upgraded with additional information. So it's just coming out. It's on pre-sale. This is the newer version. It's colored and everything, and it's going to sell retail for $25. But we have them available today just for this event for $20. We'll take cash credit and all that. And if you can't buy one today, you can go online at copscomeknockin.com, Amazon, or we have ebooks as well. Another thing I want to make an announcement about, it's fantastic that you guys came out to this. This is an amazing event. The time it takes and the energy it takes to pull all this together. I mean, Zena's house, you got to give them another round of applause. And they told you they're going to be doing other events. The other thing that they do is they work with other organizations. And so the best thing about something like this is what you get today, but then what you get reinforced. So if you find another one, if they did another one of these next week, you should try to come. If they did another one next month, you should try to come again. Don't assume it's going to be the same information. And in that vein, I want to talk about it. They mentioned that I founded a nonprofit, Math That Ain't. We're having a symposium in March 17th. Now, it's a little bit ways out. We want to spread the word, spread the love. We're out in Douglasville High. But it'll be worth the wait and worth the attendance. It's going to be talking about similar things. We'll also be talking about STEM education, science. We're really digging into science and crime prevention. We'll be talking about etiquette and how to handle yourself, how to dress, how to prepare for jobs and things like that. So if you guys want to continue pouring into yourselves and your kids, come out. I can give you information about that too afterwards. Thanks.
All right, thank you everybody. Y'all have a great weekend. Be safe.